My name is Dr. Kyle Murray, here with Atlas Brain Spine, and I started care. My first correction was back in 2020 in August. That was my first ever NUCCA correction. I've had upper cervical care beforehand, and the reason I got into care is because of my migraines that lasted for 3 years constantly after having 6 concussions. So I had played lacrosse throughout high school, and during that time I had 6 concussions. That left me with a migraine that lasted for 3 years constantly. It never went away. It was day and night. And finally got tired of it, told my parents, and we went through the entire traditional medical route of going to a neurologist, getting CAT scans, MRIs done, pictures of my brain, and they just told me at 16 years old that you just need to take pain medication the rest of your life. And I didn't want to do that. I was 16 years old. I had my whole life ahead of me, and I had no desire to take painkillers the rest of my life. So with that then, as I was going through and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, traditional medical route was the option for me. And I finally went to a chiropractor, and after a family friend had recommended it, after 2 visits, 1 week of adjustments, my migraines were gone. And it was the first time in 3 years that those migraines were gone. And I was like, there has to be something to this. I don't know what it is yet, but I knew I was going to find out. And as I went through my life, got into chiropractic school, I was trying out all sorts of different techniques and ended up with upper cervical and getting underneath upper cervical specifically. And it started to change the migraines even more. I was getting less migraines. They were getting less intense. The symptoms of the post-concussion injuries were becoming less and less too. So my brain fog was getting better. My concentration was improving. The headaches that were constantly just in and out were also starting to disappear. And so I had my life back. I was able to focus, able to concentrate, and able to move forward with my life. After having my concussions and after going through and talking to all the specialists and the neurologists, there had to be some sort of reason for it, a root cause, you could say. And they clearly didn't know what it was. And so when I was going home and just laying in bed in the dark, that's when I started to do my own research. That's when I started to look into figuring out what I needed to do to take care of myself. I thought at the time it was physical therapy. So I was doing a lot of physical therapy. I was doing a lot of exercises to try to rehab myself. And I thought that was my path. That was I was going to pursue, the other option being medical school. So as I got more into actually college and undergrad, I began to shadow medical doctors, physical therapists, and chiropractors. And I asked them all the same question. If they could go back in time and redo their schooling, would they? All the MDs said no, all the physical therapists said no, and the chiropractors said yes. I was like, oh, there has to be then a reason that they all love what they do and are willing to go back in time, redo all the things that they've gotten to this point with. And that's ultimately what led me down the decision to pursue chiropractic. And once I got into chiropractic school, I began to do a lot more research into the upper cervical spine, into the neck itself, into the entire spine, and different techniques that facilitated better healing. And I tried all sorts. I went from Gonstead, which is a full spine technique, and I was very heavy into that, and then transitioned into upper cervical care as I got into clinic and started taking care of other patients. And I tested it out, and I tested out full spine chiropractic. I tested out the extremity work. I tested out upper cervical and found that all my patients under upper cervical care were getting significantly better than those under full spine care. And I was like, okay, this is where my path is heading, and this is what I want to do with my life. So after my first correction with Atlas Brain Spine and my first NUCCA correction, I felt the immediate drain of fluids from my brain out. So you're releasing the valve, right? You're unclogging the drain so that fluids can travel out of the skull that have been stuck up there for a long period of time. So I was able to restore the brain's fluid and also the blood flow back to the brain while also flushing out all the toxins and the waste of the fluids that were sitting up there. So what that felt like then was just a flush of everything out. It literally felt like somebody had just flushed the toilet and just the bowl was just spinning down. I got a little lightheaded, a little dizzy. I had to sit there for a second. And then all of a sudden, this clarity and this peace came over me. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that with all of the chiropractic care that I had beforehand. And I knew that this was exactly where I was meant to be. When I first started care, it took me 2 weeks before I started to hold. And then when I held the first time, I actually went a full 2 months without needing another correction, which blew my mind because, I mean, I'm used to getting adjusted every single just starting my career in upper cervical chiropractic with NUCCA and only be adjusted a handful of times, then to hold for 2 months right at the beginning of care was just incredible. So during that whole 2 month period of time, I felt like my body was healing. I felt that my body was just on the right path. I was beginning to connect and to communicate, feel sensations within myself that I hadn't noticed beforehand. And so I knew that I was on that healing journey. Supplement the corrections, I was taking omega-3s, which are helpful for anything that is anti-inflammatory, helping to fight the inflammation that was in my body. I was also taking vitamin D and the ADK complex to really bolster the immune system, especially going into the winter months. And then with that, I was exercising, I was staying on top of it. I was trying to get as much sun as possible. Also drinking as much water as possible too. But the main key factors then is those are all supportive, but the actual care itself was the one thing that truly changed myself. My quality of life has dramatically improved. I went from being brain foggy, headaches, migraines consistently to being clear, being conscious, and being awake, and being able to communicate to the best that I can to help other people in similar situations. To be able to just have that clarity and the sense of peace that came along with not having migraines, not having to worry about the migraines hitting me, and then also the issues from post-concussion syndrome. So having that brain fog, having that unclarity, not being able to focus properly, and to do my job that I need to be doing. So all of those have dramatically improved, and here we are today doing exactly what we love. I'm Dr. Kyle Murray here with Atlas Brain Spine. I just want to thank Atlas Brain Spine so much for changing my life and changing the trajectory of my life. I also want to thank all the staff and Dr. Abelwakil, who's been taking care of me. I'm just appreciative, and I wouldn't be here without you guys, so thank you.